You say you're going to start Dak Prescott and Justin Fields this week.
Yeah, two very good options. Maybe a little bit of low-hanging fruit, but there's not that many teams left in most fantasy leagues right now. Dak, his last few games have not been great. He's been much better at home. That's where he plays this week at Jerry World. The Lions giving up right around 21 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks. The Vegas total is well over 50. This is going to be a high-scoring affair. Start Dak and start Justin Fields, who we told you to play last week. He had well over 20 fantasy points. I think you can hit that number again against Atlanta. They've allowed 17-plus points to quarterbacks 7 times this year, including 4 who've gone over 20. They've also given up the 7th most rushing yards to quarterbacks, and that's a big deal because we know Fields is such a mobile quarterback. So start Justin Fields.
It's no secret that the last few weeks have been a little wild in the fantasy world, so you've got some interesting sits here. 1, Tua Tagovailoa, who I assume has to do with the matchup. And number 2, you're telling us to sick Jake Browning, and you'd think that's well done, but actually Jake Browning's been one of the best quarterbacks across the past few weeks as far as fantasy points, but you say maybe not this week.
Yeah, we'll start off with Tua. Tua has not been great lately. I mean, fewer than 16 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. Now he's got Baltimore. Now, Baltimore could let down after a huge road win against the 49ers. And remember, the last time these two teams played, Tua went off, and Lamar Jackson did too. But the bottom line here is that if you follow the process says to fade Tua. And yet, Jake Browning, since week 13, is in the top 8 among fantasy quarterbacks. It's crazy to think that, but I'm not going to play him against Kansas City. They have allowed just one quarterback to score more than 18.9 points against them at Arrowhead Stadium. That is not a great ceiling for Jake Browning. I am keeping him on the fantasy sidelines, especially with the injuries there to Jamar Chase.